Yeah, g'day YouTubers. Tinker O'Toole again here with part 2 of Hexa. So what we're going to do today is we've set this grinding wheel up. We've just got the grinding stone or the grinding little block, and we've dressed the stone up as best as possible so that it matches the Hexa profile as good as possible. And we just slightly dress the bottom of the wheel so that it would fit in the Hexa as best as possible. So we'll zoom in and we'll just show you that. So that's an original Stihl Hexa chain, never been used. I like to use it as my template, and you'll notice that that fits in pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, if you looked at part 1, you would have noticed how we dressed 15 degrees off this side and 15 degrees off the bottom. So if I just adjust that wheel back to 90 degrees, you should be able to get a better vision of that wheel if I get in the right position. So there it is there. So you can clearly see down here that you've got 15 degrees off here and you've got 15 degrees off there. Now, in the video, I'd mentioned that I used two tools to do that, which were primarily a piece of stainless steel, which was angled at 15 degrees. We would sit that in the guide rails, and that was our 15-degree offset from the bottom, the horizontal. And we did the vertical on the side of the wheel. Same thing, set that in there and put the grinding block on the side and ground 15 degrees off. Now, when you do that, the normal angle, if you translate from Stihl, this head angle on a Stihl is 25 degrees. That translates to 65 degrees on a Oregon grinder. But remember that you took 15 degrees off the side of the wheel. So therefore, you don't angle this at 65 degrees. You take the 15 degrees off, which means you'll set this at 50 degrees. So I actually found out that it worked better. It fits into the tooth at about 47. So about 47 degrees that it actually fits in there much better. Look at that, beautiful. That fits in there really good, nice and snug. So you set it up like that, and you might just have to fine tune it a couple of degrees here or there. It just depends. Every grinder could be out a degree or something like that there. So no big deal. It's the same thing as when you grind the wheel and you reprofile it. It could be out a degree or two. So once you get the wheel within the right angles using the little silicon carbide block, and you've got that wheel all set up at the right angles, it's just a matter of fine tuning it. And that's why I like to have a Hexa chain, brand new, as my template. Now the chain, I've got a brand new chain here, full chisel. Now this full chisel chain, I've noticed on some of the full chisels, you'll have a look, brand new. I think everyone's copying everyone out there. It almost looks like a mini Hexa. It's almost halfway there if you actually have a look. So that's almost a Hexa. Not quite. If we actually, we'll see whether we can put the Hexa up against it. A lot of companies do copy each other, so it's not as pronounced as a Stihl Hexa. So if we put the Stihl, I think you can see the difference in the tooth. If we put the two up together, hang on, you'll notice that the difference is on the Stihl definitely has, as you can see, it's almost the same, except the Stihl goes in a little bit deeper into the tooth. The other one goes about halfway into the tooth, and the Stihl goes in about 70% angle. While the angles are the same, it's slightly different. But yeah, so that roll, that 100-foot roll that I use here, this is hurricane chain. And pretty happy with it. And as you can see, it's almost copy and hexa. It just doesn't have quite the same angle. It's got the same angle, but the depth of this goes, what would it be? Look, it's probably halfway. Could be 45%, whereas the hexa goes in a bit deeper. So the other angle is on the top plate. We put that on 25 degrees, so we'll lock that into position. And as I said, we've got about 47 degrees. We've got about 47 degrees on the head here because of the 15 degrees that we removed, approximately 15 degrees that we removed off the wheel. And we've got to compensate for that. So it's going to be pretty straightforward to grind that up to hexa. As I said, it's almost hexa the way it is. And the thing is, if you buy this chain, you really need to reprofile your wheel so that it suits anyway. So, yeah. So there's no point buying the chain if you like the hexa. This does actually perform really well. I really do like the hurricane chain. I've got no complaints about it whatsoever. And with the hexa type profile, definitely cuts better than a standard full chisel. Definitely cuts better. So we'll grind it all up and we'll have a look at it. Yeah, okay, so what we're going to do now is just grind up the chain. I've just ground that one, so it's all set up. And it'll be just a matter of doing them all now. You can see that there's not much to actually grind to get that. All that's really happened, the actual angle is there, but we're just going deeper into the tooth. Look, the wheel probably only needs to be dressed up maybe every 3 or 4 chains. Even then, you're only going to slightly dress it. You're not reprofiling it, you're just trying to keep those edges uniform. Anyway, we'll continue doing this, and when we finish we'll put it up against the original hexa and we'll compare them. So that's what the grind looks like. So if we look at the Stihl, then you have a look at this chain that I just did. It come up pretty good. I think you can see that that's not too bad if you compare them. Just have a look there. Look, there may be a little bit of difference here or there, but look, if there is a little bit of difference, I don't think that it's going to have any huge effect on cutting performance. It's maybe not perfect identical, but I tell you what, she's getting pretty close. And that's the main thing. You're just trying to duplicate. The other thing is also you may have a Hexa chain and you've got to regrind it, but you don't have a Stihl grinder. I'm not saying that you're going to use the file. Yeah, sure, you could use the Hexa file, but yeah, if you've got a lot of chains to do, you may get sick of using the file. I use a file, but yeah, if I'm out there in the field and I've cut a lot of wood up, the last thing I want to do is come back home and use a file and sharpen half a dozen chains with a file. I tend to put them on the grinder and whiz through them pretty quick. If it meant that the chains lasted an incredible amount of time, I'd probably sort of spend a bit more time with the file. But because with the really hard wood that we cut, you're lucky if you get an hour and a half, 2 hours maximum out of a chain cutting a eucalyptus, because it's extremely hard timber. And that edge only lasts for about an hour and a half to 2 hours sort of maximum. So you constantly, every day you're sharpening your chains. So yeah, you want to spend time with a file or do you want to do it on a grinder? So yeah. Anyway, just to briefly recap again, that the angles on the grinder, that once you've reprofiled and put 15-degree bevel on the vertical side of the wheel and you put a 15-degree bevel on the horizontal part of the wheel, that gives you a span of 120 degrees, and that's what Hexa is, 60 degrees in, 60 degrees out, approximately 60 degrees, close enough. And you set your, it's actually 65 degrees in. It's not 60, it's 65, which is 25 degrees on a Stihl. So after that modification, I ended up having to adjust the grinder to 47, so I was a couple of degrees out, no big deal. That's why I like to keep an original Hexa chain so that I can set it up in the grinder, as you saw, bring it down and just slightly adjust the head or slightly adjust till you got it spot on as best as possible. And as you can see, the end result, while not perfect, and even on a Stihl USG grinder, if you don't dress the wheel properly, it won't be as good as a factory grind, but it's darn close. Yeah, if you're 95% there, who cares about the other 5%? It's not going to be a game changer if you're a little bit out of degree or so. Anyway, look, I hope that helps. I personally am a great fan of the Hexa, and I'm going to do all my wheels as they wear down. They'll be all getting that sort of grind on them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Bye for now. Okay, so what we've got here is the chain that we just ground, and I'm using a 5mm Allen key as my template because a 5mm Allen key is almost identical to the hexagonal Stihl file, as you can see here. So really does work well. If I put the Stihl file in, you should be able to see that also. We'll just drop it down a little bit. Not as clear. But yeah, it's, if you don't have a Stihl hexagonal file, get yourself a 5mm Allen key after you've ground the chain. That's what it looks like. And as I say, when you put it up in against there, I think most people would be pretty happy with that.